Hey guys, I'm coming to you outside of Portland, Oregon, but I'm actually on the Washington side of the Columbia River. Check this out. I'm with the all-new 2023 Honda HR-V. I'm ready to give you guys all the driving impressions today. Let's get into it. Beginning with the walk around of the new HR-V. The front end is a bit polarized and looks nothing like the global model, which is the HR-V and bezel other places. It's a little bit Ford Escape, but you know what? When I see it in person, it actually looks a lot better than it does in photos on my computer and my phone. This is an EXL model, it's the top of the line. So we have glossy black on the front, the bottom, as well as the grille. We have these really sharp daytime running lights. Honda badge looks great. You can also get a dealer installed option to black that out to kind of match this glossiness. Now this has 17-inch multicolored wheels. On the Sport model, you'll get black 18-inch wheels, which the Sport model is going to be the volume seller for them. This is an all-new platform, like I mentioned, on Honda's small vehicle platform. Of course, it shares quite a bit with the Civic, but you can see from the side, this vehicle looks a lot bigger than the Civic, a lot taller. This vehicle is also much wider, has a longer wheelbase than the outgoing HR-V. It is still built in the Celaya plant in Guanajuato, Mexico, and no exhaust tips, really. It's just tucked under there, very indiscreet for sure. More glossy black on the back of the vehicle, and these rear tail lights are incredible. I think they are one of the best design points of the new vehicle. I saw this blacked out as well, which looks really good, but chrome doesn't look bad. And I love the return of the classic all-wheel drive badge on the window. I remember seeing that from the CR-Vs in the 90s, so I like the return. Underneath the hood, we do not have an aluminum hood here. This feels pretty heavy. Using the traditional kickstand here. Look at all this space, holy smokes. This is the first time I've looked underneath here. We have the 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. Yes, it has VTEC, guys. Just wait for that VTEC to kick in later when we do our 0 to 60. The 2-liter with 158 horsepower and 138 pound-feet of torque mated to the CVT transmission. Now, it's been a completely revised CVT. It's pretty decent. You'll find out here in a little bit. But I can't get over all the extra space in this engine compartment. Maybe they'll fill it up with a hybrid model one day. We don't have any hybrids yet. We don't have any turbos yet. I'll talk more about that on our drive. About 27 miles per gallon is what Honda's expecting you to get in the all-wheel drive models combined. And then the front wheel drive models will be around 28 miles per gallon, which is actually down a little bit compared to the smaller outgoing HR-V. Again, on the inside, soft touch door materials on the top and hard touch below that. But look, we have leather wrapped on this EXL model, and we have this ribbed design, this wavy design that helps hide scratches. I think it also looks pretty cool as well. Power seat here on this top of the line EXL grade, heated seat as well, 3 different settings, nice stitching. It's a really comfortable seat. Of course, we have leather wrapped steering wheel, excellent A+ steering wheel overall. We do have some glossy black on it, which it's going to be a little bit reflective, catch fingerprints of course, but it does a good job matching the glossy black on the back of the vehicle. And check it out, honeycomb on this vehicle as well. Why do I say as well? Because it's taken. And did you hear that door sound? That is a very solid entry-level vehicle door sound. Very happy with that. But this is honeycomb just like the Civic. I don't say just like, it has its own unique styling to it. We don't have those little shifter knobs for the vents. We have more traditional vents that kind of line up with this silver trim that goes through the middle of it. And even look at the small details. There's stitching at the edge of this panel. They didn't need to do that, but I'm glad they did. And it's also over here as well. Soft touch here, and then a little bit hard. Actually, it's soft touch behind that. I wasn't expecting that. So soft touch all the way on the dash, a little speaker on top, upgraded from the 7-inch screen. That's the 9-inch screen, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and this model has upgraded sound system, 8 speakers. But if you get the lower trims, you still get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's just wired. This also has a wireless charger. It's been charging my phone on the way up here, and it looks like it's kept its charge the whole time. Cup holders in the front, and I love this leather around the middle, super comfortable, and it's just kind of continuous all the way back, the continuation of the soft touch leather. We have a little underpass here that I just put the key so it doesn't slide around and make noise in the non-rubber lined cup holders, but this is rubber lined here, keeps the key in place. We have chargers on each side. This is charging my GoPro behind me. Of course, we have a sunroof on this top of the line model here. The rear view mirror is excellent. In so many vehicles nowadays, you can't see very well out of the rear window. That's not the case in this HRV. Great visibility out of the rear view mirror and the rear window. Now on the smaller screens, you also get a tuning knob. This one has a volume knob, which I'm happy about, and this does a good job going through your presets. You could also go through your presets here and volume here. 7-inch MID behind the steering wheel, so some customization if you wanted to go through some different options here. But Apple CarPlay and Android Auto navigation directions come up on this 7-inch MID as well. All-wheel drive torque distribution on there if you guys really want to see all that power and torque being laid down. I love the simple rotary knobs for climate control. Honda did it great with the Civic and the Integra. Luckily it's here as well on the HRV, so very functional, very easy to increase the fan speed, turn it up, turn it down. Super intuitive, love it. Here's your heated seat buttons. The shifter feels great. I'm glad we don't have push buttons. So I love the traditional shifter. Thank you, Honda, for keeping a real shifter here, even though it's a CVT. I'm not a big fan of those push buttons that you have on some of your other models. And we're gonna get on the back seat here, and we're gonna talk about how this vehicle accommodates someone at 6'1". This being an entry-level model, and plenty of knee space. I have like probably 6 inches of knee space here. The door trim, I actually have hard touch back here. So on the front door, soft touch at the top. This looks the same, more leatherette with the stitching. Good to see that. Soft back to the seats, only one mat pocket back here. No vents, unfortunately no vents. And you can see a cutout here. So for certain markets, you know that they're gonna have either USBs, possibly vents here as well. We don't get any of that here in the United States, I guess. There's no fold down here for a cup holder. So that is a surprise. I can't tell you the last time I haven't seen a cup holder in the middle of a vehicle. Headroom is actually really good at 6'1". I still have about a ½ inch or an inch of headroom. So well done, Honda, there. You can accommodate large people in your back seat. Now, what we need to talk about though is cargo capacity before we start driving. So you're gonna lift up this lift gate. There's a nice HRV going over there. And this is not motorized, mind you. So pretty basic, you don't need that motorization if it keeps the cost down. So nice flat floor here, more of that rib styling, excellent load floor height here. It's about, I don't know, well, it's relative, right? So it's just above my kneecap. And then I can lift this up, some additional storage here, and then a real spare tire, guys. So it's good to have this spare tire in new vehicles nowadays. Now we're gonna fold these down. This doesn't have the magic seats that were derived from the last generation Honda Fit, which the HRV was a derivative of that same vehicle. So moving the front seat forward, no, this one's not power. Only the driver's side is power, and that allows the seat to fold down properly. So we have a nice, pretty, almost perfectly flat floor. These little, it goes up maybe an inch or so. So nearly perfectly flat. And I'll give you guys a look from the back. There's about 55 cubic feet. He's flying, by the way. My gosh. There's about 55 cubic feet of space back here, which is about 10 more than the Honda Civic hatchback. All right, 0 to 60. There's no sport mode, but you do put the shifter into S right here. And I'm just going to torque brake to about 2,300 and go. Didn't expect it to launch hard, but nothing really happened until about 4,000 RPM. We're gonna get there, guys. We're gonna get there. 60. Got it. Put it back into drive. That was a blistering 10.83. My expectations were 11 seconds, so we already beat that here in the new redesigned HRV. We're driving the all-new, redesigned from the ground up 2023 Honda HRV on a whole new platform based off of Honda's small architecture platform. It's a global platform. The HRV global version for other markets, also known as a Vezel, is based off this platform. But something more near and dear to us here in the United States is the Honda Civic, and this shares a lot with the Civic. It's a little bit bigger, of course, than the outgoing HRV on every single way, because that old HRV was actually built off of the Honda City and the Honda Fit, very compact vehicle platform. This is designed for America in mind. Japan will be getting the ZRV, which is this car, as well as Europe. Anyways, back to this thing. With a 2-liter engine in it, 158 horsepower, 138 pound-feet of torque. I'm just gonna hammer down. I'm going about 53 and go. And I feel like it's pretty responsive. And with the CVT, it is smooth. And It does rev. It'll rev all the way to about 6,500 RPM and then acts like it's shifting. One of the great things about the CVT is Honda's completely redone it on the new Civic as well as here, and it actually is pretty darn good for a CVT. It's not too overly drony by any means, and I feel like it's a good match to this 2-liter upgrade, replacing the 1.8-liter. It's got more than 10 more horsepower and a little bit more torque as well. And getting on the brakes a little bit as we get into this bend here, the brake feel in this is phenomenal. I almost feel like in some ways it might be a little bit better than the standard Honda Civic. I don't know if that's just me, but the brake feel is really good, very strong, very progressive. I also have the Honda Safety Sense features on, so I have the lane keep, which works extremely well. Now these lines are really, really good, but even in the turns, I've been like trusting the car with my life, and it's been doing, like, this is really scary with my hands off the wheel, and it's doing it. It's reminding me to put my hands on the wheel. Also, I have turn-by-turn navigation that pops up on the MID. We don't get the full digital cluster that you get in some of the top Civic trims or even the Integra trim, but I really enjoy this one. It's the same sort of setup we have in the Civic Si. Oh, that's a nice Kawasaki motorcycle back there. I haven't driven the old HRV in a long time, and that vehicle has been on sale since 2015 as a 2016 model year. That vehicle, to me, when I got into it, seemed very, I'm not going to say cheaply made, but the quality materials were not good by any means. In here we got some soft touch on the doors, soft touch on the dash. Like, it feels a much more premium experience. Of course, I'm sitting on leather seats in this EXL trim, so it definitely feels much, much nicer. And I even like the leather trim around the center console. It makes for a soft contact point with the knee with the center console. So everything in here, even the armrests are in leather trim, and it just feels really comfortable and spacious in here. There's not a lot of light here in this part of the country, but having the sunroof definitely brings a little bit more light into this cabin. Ah, there's a rival to this vehicle. I love how the Corolla Cross comes driving by, because that, to me, as this vehicle has gotten much bigger, the Corolla Cross is like its #1 arch rival. And this vehicle does handle better. The brake feel feels better. It doesn't have the same sort of peppiness. I remember 0 to 60 in that vehicle is around 9 seconds. This vehicle, down on horsepower, down on torque versus the 2-liter in the Toyota. So it doesn't quite do the same. Now, fuel economy might not be as good as the Corolla Cross either. Now, you also have to keep in mind, Corolla Cross has the hybrid coming out. And I really asked Honda about this, and even the turbo model. Why isn't there the options? Well, they really wanted this vehicle to be a great entry-level vehicle. They're open to other powertrains in the future, especially hybrid. I just don't see the turbo model coming to this vehicle, but I do think as Honda becomes a lot more electrified in the future, we very well could see the new Civic hybrid system that is in Europe now. It's coming to our Civic here stateside. It would be a no-brainer for this vehicle, and that has around 200 horsepower, and that would bring this vehicle, I don't know, at least 35 miles per gallon and 200 horsepower. We don't have that, so this entry-level setup is going to cost less than a potential hybrid, and it's still, I would say, good for the average person. It's not a performance car. I'm just going to hammer down again. Yeah, you know, it's adequate and nothing more and nothing less. With me driving it right now, I'm getting like 25 miles per gallon, but I've been flogging this thing quite often with the 0 to 60 as well. Ooh, we're getting in some nice twisties in here. And this thing, ooh, that's a beautiful little stream there. Really cool. We just drove over. Anyways, this landscape is breathtaking. I've never been in this part of the country. Yeah, back to the steering. Very, well, I was expecting it to be a little bit more Civic-like because it's on the same platform, but maybe I was expecting too much because it is a bigger, taller crossover. It does hold really well in the turns, and I don't have a lot of body roll. It's a confidence-inspiring entry-level crossover. Like, it's actually pretty fun to drive in the twisties. Top of my head, I believe this vehicle weighs around 3,300 pounds, which is quite a bit more than the outgoing vehicle. but you're only getting about 1 to 2 less miles per gallon and getting more performance too. So it's a decent trade-off to get all this space as well. Now Honda has really trimmed its trim levels per se. We just have 3. We have the LX, which is the entry level, that's around 25K. And then you have the sport model, which they're hoping the sport model will be the volume seller. It has larger wheels, it's 18-inch wheels versus 17 on this model. Now, with this larger screen on this EXL, we get an upgraded sound system. It is not Bose like we see on the upper and higher trim Civics. So it's a little bit disappointing on that end that we don't get that Bose treatment, but it sounds decent in here. Now in 2021, in its last year of its model year for the first generation HRV, it sold like 137,000 units here in America. And you would think, oh, you know, as it's getting older, it shouldn't be selling well, or as well. But that wasn't the case. It had a record year for sales in 2021 with HRV. So this new model is coming in while the iron is hot and it's ready to sell in volume. The problem is we know the supply chain issues. So you have this vehicle that shares so much with the Civic, and the Civic supply chain has been hurt because of the supply chain disruption. So I'm a little worried for the HRV for the next year or two, as we just don't know the supply of the chips and the ability for them to ramp up production. All right, we got some yellow arrows here, well, black arrows on yellow background, taking it about 45. The vehicle just handles really, really well. You know, in a straight line, this vehicle's not fun at all, and it's a bit uninspiring. But heck, you throw this thing in the turn, assuming you have turns. I have no turns in Florida, so this vehicle would not be the most fun to drive. But if I have scenery like this and roads like this with some nice twisties here and there, it's actually a very pleasant vehicle. My miles per gallon is starting to climb back up after I'm pretty much done flooring and whipping this little 2-liter. Gosh, how stunningly beautiful is this? I can't get over this, guys. Thank you for your support. So Honda brings me to events like this. This is just mind-blowing. Oh, there's a cool off-road trail there. All my driving is on-road with this HRV. So I'm sorry, guys, you're not gonna see any extreme off-roading with this vehicle. I'm turning off steering assist for this portion because I want to get a better feel of the steering without it interrupting, which, like I showed earlier, it does very well in the turns with very little input from the driver. But now that would have been a nice place to stop and do a little walk around. It's pretty muddy though. Powering out. It's just, you know, even though you do hear a good amount of engine noise, I don't feel like it's annoying. And I feel like it's more than acceptable for this class of vehicle, an entry level. Like it's not extremely overbearing from the engine bay. I haven't talked about ride quality yet. It's a bit floaty. It's not harsh at all. I think it's done a really good job handling these imperfect roads and still being firm and settled in the turns. So the new HRV, the looks are subjective, but I think it does look good from most angles. The front is taking some getting used to, but it does look better in person than it does in photos. The interior though is excellent, especially in this EXL trim with these leather seats, super comfortable, tons of space. I just feel like I have tons of headroom, lots of shoulder and arm space. It feels like a big vehicle for an HRV. The quality materials in here are so much far and beyond that of the previous generation. The honeycomb grille, which is kind of taking a page out of the Civic, and this vehicle's very Civic-like. Does it handle as good as the Civic? Of course not. Does it feel as peppy as a Civic? No, but this is a vehicle with less compromises than the Civic. Now I know the Civic hatchback has a good amount of space in it. You have that higher ride height and you have that all-wheel drive option as well in this vehicle. So Honda's going to continue to sell a ton of these things. Will it be 100,000 the first year? I highly doubt it, because again, they're struggling to produce the Civic, which shares so many of these parts. So this vehicle over time though should easily be able to sell 100, 150,000 and possibly even more if the parts are supplied for it. But overall, the HRV is just a better vehicle overall than the outgoing one, as it should be. It's a whole new generation, but yeah, it's very Civic-like. And when you start with such a good beginning, such as the new Civic, the 11th gen, you can't really go wrong. Slap all-wheel drive on it. It'd be nice to have a turbo. It'd be nice to have a hybrid, but I think that hybrid's around the corner, so definitely stay tuned. Ooh, this is a decreasing radius turn I wasn't expecting. And this vehicle did well, even though the road's a little bit wet. So anyways, signing out from the HRV. It's pretty fun to drive, and it's gonna be a great entry-level option for Honda. Definitely a step up from the last one. I gotta cut myself off. I've probably been rambling on for far too long, per usual. Thank you guys so much again for your support, because that brings me out to these events, gets me invited by Honda, and man, I would love to be in something a little put me in the Civic Si right now, because I'm completing my drive with the HRV. Okay, cut myself off.